What does it mean when your car is shaking when you're braking? Shaking when you're slowing down happens quite often. And there are actually four major reasons behind this. And only one of them is actually kind of what you think it is. In no particular order, number one is going to be, well, your brakes. So what's going to happen with that is that your brakes, or your braking system, to simplify things, we're going to break it up into two parts. Part number one is going to be the rotor. And the rotor is going to be that metal, shiny plate-looking thing that when you look into basically a car's wheels, when you're looking at it, it's going to be that big metal shiny plate. Okay? And that is going to move with the tire and the wheel as they move forward, as they move backwards. The second component that we're going to talk about is going to be the brake pads themselves. And these are going to be on the piece that's going to be stationary. So if you look at kind of some high performance cars and stuff like that, you've seen them with different colors of brake calipers. The caliper is the thing that holds the actual pad. That's not important. What I'm saying is that if you see that thing, it's different color, if it's yellow or red or whatever, things like that, that's going to be the piece in which the brake pads are going to sit. They're going to basically be hiding out in there, and that piece is going to remain stationary. Well, as that brake rotor is moving, perfect, I'm at a red light. So as the rotor is moving this way, you're going to wait until that brake pad can then squish on it, and that's what's going to cause you to slow down and to stop. There's going to be the force of squeezing the brake pads, touching the brake rotor. Squeeze it that way. If there is any sort of what they call warp in that brake rotor, which means instead of it moving perfectly this way, you're going to have a little bit of waggle. That's accentuated. A little bit of waggle that way. So that is going to be a major cause of your car shaking when it's braking, is because those brake pads are trying to squeeze onto this thing that's not exactly, vertical. So as it's trying to squeeze, it's going to be squeezing this way, squeezing that way, and that's what's going to cause you to kind of have the shakes. And I've had that before. I've had a rotor that was a little bit wavy, and that's going to be the more violent option. When you're slowing down, your steering wheel is going to be shaking. You're going to be not necessarily pulled over to one lane or the other. That's a little bit extreme. But you will be having, the shaking steering wheel. And it's kind of unnerving, especially unnerving where I live in Idaho. There's a lot of snow, a lot of ice. So you're trying to slow down on ice, and you get that extra feeling, that extra play, that extra shake makes you a little nervous. So that's going to be kind of the first scenario in which you'd be shaking when you're braking is going to be a braking issue itself, whether that be the brake pads having a hard time squishing onto the rotor because the rotor is going to be wavy, or the brake pads themselves are going to be wearing uneven. And that's going to be a little bit less violent of a shake than if you had those rotors out of spec, I guess you could say. A little bit more wavy. They're going to have a hard time clamping on that wavy, and that's what's going to cause you to have the shakes in it that way. Number two, once again, in no particular order, option number two would be if your tires are wearing uneven. And that's going to be a whole different video on how that can happen. But basically, if you're trying to slow down on tires that are going to be uneven, you're going to be pulled in one way or the other a little bit, and that's going to cause you to have a shake trying to keep that under control. It's not going to be as violent unless you're going to have some sort of major, PSI, major inflation differential. That way, one's being inflated other than the other. Have a hard time doing it that way. But as you're slowing down, and as all that weight of the car is going to be pushing forward, it's going to be accentuating any sort of discrepancy in those tires. So that's going to be another major situation you need to be aware of, is going to be tires, which isn't necessarily what you would think of when you are shaking when you're braking. Okay, so Option number 3 on why your car is shaking when you're braking. One that is commonly overlooked, unless you have a Honda, which I'm not sure why Hondas are prone to this, is a wheel bearing issue. So the wheel is going to sit on the end of this long spline, rather than this, boop, just like that. And of course, we're going to have something that's going to be spinning on something that's going to be solid. You're going to have some sort of bearing there. So wheel bearing could be the issue on why you're going to have that shaky braking. And that is because if your wheel is trying to spin and there's an issue with the thing allowing it to spin, you're going to have some issues. And that will be, again, accentuated with braking because you're going to have all that weight of your car forced into that forward direction. If one of those two wheels, well, I guess any wheel, it would cause you a problem. But one of those two wheels in the front, it's going to accentuate that issue, especially under load of braking with everything going forward in the car. Instead of your wheel spinning freely, you're going to have some hiccups in that direction, and that will cause it to shake. It won't be as violent as your rotor being warped. It'll be noisier. A lot of times wheel bearings are going to be loud no matter what. Whether you're going to be driving or braking, they're going to be loud. So that's going to be kind of a giveaway. If it's already loud when you're driving and then it's also shuddering when you're braking, that might be another issue. Could be, could not be. And the last option, number 4, on why your car is shaking when it's braking is going to be an issue with your suspension. Mainly with what they call your A-arm bushings. And we're not going to get too crazy into that. But a bushing is also going to be a rubber sleeve that a piece of metal is going to be inside of it if that piece of metal is planning on moving up and down. So similar to a bearing where it's going to be the connection between a moving piece and a non-moving piece, these bushings are going to be made out of rubber and not metal. And because they're rubber, they will wear out, especially in areas of the country where you're going to have more inclement weather. They're going to dry out, things of that nature, and that's going to cause an issue with those suspension components to move up and down and also to adjust when you are braking. Because with all that weight moving forward, something has to happen, something has to move because of all that energy. And if that bushing, that little rubber sleeve, is starting to give out, it's not going to allow your suspension, your A-arms, to move as they need to move. And that's going to cause you an issue, especially with under braking. I know I've said that so many times, but all these issues are accentuated while under braking because that's one of the most stressful parts of your car, especially if you slam on your brakes. You kind of feel all that energy going forward, all that momentum driving you forward. And if you have a part in the system that's broken or breaking, that will cause you some problems. So those are the 4 major issues on why your car will be shaking while it's braking. There are more issues that would cause it to do that, but those are going to be the 4 main ones. And of course, like I said, again, they're not going to be in any particular order. You are going to have braking issues, and that's going to be with either the rotor or the pads. You are going to have tire issues, uneven wear on your tires that will cause the car to shudder and shake while you're braking. You're going to have wheel bearing issues that will be accentuated while you're braking. And you're also, last but not least, suspension components, not allowing your car to move as it should be moving while you are braking. Those are the 4 major ones. Could be one of them, could be all of them. Who knows? Let's go get it checked out by a professional. Then you'll know, then you'll be safe. If there's anything I got wrong, please let me know down in the comments below. Make sure that you subscribe because our next video is going to be on why your car shakes while you're moving. It's going to be a completely different issue. Obviously, the brakes won't be involved in that one. But we're going to talk about now why your car shakes when it's moving, which happens quite often. So subscribe, hit the bell so you can know when that video comes out. Thanks for watching.